Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is the other half, some would call it the better half, of the Friends to Know podcast, Jestin Sallas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, bud.
Welcome, Justin.
The Jester.
Jestin the Jester.
I'll answer to any J name.
Oh. Good to know. How's your day going?
So far, so good. The day is still relatively young, so we'll see how the night ends up.
You're in the same state as me, so we still have light over here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It just got dark here recently.
This is the thing I love about the summer is more light. So let's dive right in. All right, Justin, I want to know about the things in your early childhood that stick out to you. And if they have pop culture references, that's great, like TV shows and cartoons, comics, even political events, anything. And also earliest stuff that may have made it into dreams.
Okay, let's see. So from my adolescence, I think probably normal for my age range. I'm 34 years old, so Ninja Turtles was a big thing. I remember playing with my He-Man action figures and coloring my He-Man coloring books, but I have very few memories of actually watching He-Man. It just wasn't on as much back then.
What about She-Man?
No, never watched She-Man.
Boom, boom.
I've heard legends.
Or is it She-Ra? I can't remember.
It was She-Ra.
She-Ra, Jerry.
I thought you were making it good.
No, I wasn't. There was She-Hulk, too.
There was She-Hulk. That is true.
Lots of prefixed female characters.
This is some Nox Mente gold. Okay, I'm muting again.
I think those are probably the earliest ones. Moving forward, I guess. Yes, I used to watch. We didn't have cable. We just had, the few channels that whatever decided to come in that day. It was usually Fox, so we watched a lot of stuff on Fox. There was X-Men animated series, always a classic. As far as political things, I want to say probably the biggest one is Clinton not having sexual relations with that woman and then having sexual relations with that woman.
Yeah,
I remember where I was when I saw both those. And there was a hushed silence in the house as everyone gathered around the television to watch the president admit that
it was a main event.
It was. It really was. I was staying with my
it was almost
my uncle.
As big as the OJ shit.
Yeah. OJ was a big thing back then too. I remember where I was when I was watching the car chase. But yeah, I was actually
agreeing with you.
my uncle's, who's actually my second cousin, a really cool guy, really cool family. I think the first time I met them that I remember, I was at a family reunion, and I started playing with my cousins, who are actually like my third cousins or something. And they took me back to their house across the mountains over in Lake Stevens for like 3 weeks. I just met them, They're like, "Hey, can we steal your kid for a few weeks?" Oh, I had a blast. Took me to the zoo over there, and anyway, I'm rambling.
You got the special treatment.
I did, yeah. No, man, I had two cousins. One was older, one was younger. It was kind of right in between. But yeah, that was cool. You know, they took me over there, and anytime they'd come over, sometimes they'd go out of their way to come steal me to go on camping trips and stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. No wonder that actually sticks out, though. That's great.
Yeah. Well, and I got 3 brothers and 2 sisters, so it's not like I was the only kid. You know, I was just the coolest kid. So.
Yeah, right. But it's a great, like, kind of hardcore rock loving thing that's pinned back in that period of time for you. It's a good symbol.
One of my favorite memories of my uncle. You ever been to Chelan?
I don't think so.
So just outside of Chelan, there's Chelan Falls, right? And it's like 5 minutes outside. It's just down in the gorge, down by the Columbia Moor, away from.
Wait, what's the? I think I live in that area. I guess I'm not familiar with it, but I know the falls. I know the falls.
Chelan Falls.
Yeah,
it's right there next to like a BB Bridge and BB Park or Daroga.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I put that together. Thank you.
So I was born in Chelan and raised in Chelan and Manson. But I was living down at the falls at that time with my cousin, and my uncle didn't know where I lived or where they lived. So Chelan Falls is a pretty small town. So he's like, they drove down there, parked on the side of the road, and just started screaming my name. And they found me. Like, I was like 2 houses over from where they started screaming, and they're like, "Hey, we're here to take you camping with us." So
that is awesome. It's kind of
that's pretty cool.
It's there's something of like kind of Appalachian Hills about that. I like
a little bit,
where you just pull up.
Yeah, if you can think of Chelan Falls, like it's tiny. Like, I think there's
that's probably why I didn't know the actual town.
Yeah, the falls. Yeah, everyone calls it the falls. Chelan Falls, the falls.
Did you have religion in your life when you were little?
Yes. I was my father, when he got out of prison, one of those times, he found the Lord, you know, Jesus. I mean, if anyone's looking, he's in jail because that's where everyone finds him. So he found the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in jail.
Hold on, I'm writing that down.
He might go under Jesus. I don't know, maybe, but Jesus, he found him. Actually, funny, my father's name actually is Jesus. So, anyway, he got out, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is kind of one of the main churches in that area in Chelan. And one of the families there, I'm not going to say them just because I don't know, just in case, but took extremely good care of my family. They would always help us out of jams. You know, they'd always made sure that, you know, we had what we needed. And my father, you know, the patriarch of the family would always make sure my father had work so that he could earn money to help provide for us. So we went to the Mormon church. I was actually baptized in Mormon. And then probably I want to say around the age of 10, my mother and father got divorced because, well, my father's a piece of shit. Hope I can curse. So
this is all good. All
good. So after they got divorced, they were excommunicated from the church, even though my father was the piece of shit. My mother had nothing to do with anything besides realizing that she married a piece of crap. My father's been in and out. Like, I have no idea where he is now. I'm pretty sure he's probably 6 feet under, if I had to guess. Haven't talked to him for 2 decades or something, at least, maybe a decade. I don't know. But they were excommunicated, so they said, "Oh, you can still come to the church, but you can't be members of the church." At least for my mother, right? And that rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I was pretty young.
That's terrible. Like, that's a Mormon thing? Right? Oh my God.
So here's the thing, right? So probably in the last 3 months, I've been entertaining Mormons on their mission. I don't mind talking or debating religion. Not even so much debating. I even told them, like, look, you guys can come in. I'll let you guys practice on me. Like, just consider it practice. Like, don't think I'm going to the church. I'm like, I have no qualms with Mormons. Again, they've always treated my family pretty good, especially in those tough times for us. And when I told them, they're like, "Well, so you used to be Mormon?" And I tell them that story, and they're like, "Well, that's weird. We've never heard of that ever happening to anyone." So I don't know why. Maybe
Ooh,
it
the
was
seed
just
of
the people
doubt.
at that church. That could have just been the people at that church that didn't like my mom, I guess, even though she's a freaking saint. So I don't know why, but apparently that's not standard procedure.
Or that the young people going around not door knocking know that that's standard procedure. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's an eye-opening moment. It's a seed of doubt.
It really is. But yeah, I mean, I remember being pretty young when that happened, and my mom wanted us to. She encouraged us to keep going, but I'm like, no, like that's some bullshit. Like, I was pretty young, but I realized that wasn't right, and it was messed up because she did nothing wrong. But yeah, that and when I was young, when I was a little bit older, actually, I went to church camp, and I was trying to get in good with this chick, and so I got baptized as a Christian.
That always is a reason.
Right?
Get them when they're horny.
I want to say I was probably like 13 years old, and there's this girl there. And anyway, so it worked. We started dating. Nothing ever happened because it was church camp. Actually, funny story. I hitchhiked out to that church camp.
Oh man, you had it bad.
I got really lucky because I was picked up, right? And I'm not saying I was a cute kid, but I wasn't ugly. And I was picked up, and fortunately, I was dropped off safe and sound. But yeah, I hitched. I rode the bus out to Eniat, and it's up the Eniat, and it's like 10 miles up the Eniat, right?
That just sounds sorry, but Eniat?
Up the Eniat? Oh, yeah. I guess it does sound very bad. Yeah, that's the name of the town here, Eniat, Washington. Eniat.
Oh my goodness.
It's spelled Eniat, right? And everyone says Intiat. That's Eniat. Anyway, it does sound dirty when you say up the Eniat.
It totally does.
I hitchhiked up the Eniat. And I made it out.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so we started dating.
So,
and she and her parents were like missionaries, and they moved to Honduras, and we had to break up. But that's what you get for dating the daughter of a missionary, right?
What do you consider yourself now, as far as in terms of religion?
Curious. I wouldn't set myself.
I don't know why you're making me laugh so hard tonight, Justin.
I am hilarious.
You are. Yes.
I told you this, but if you ask around, I'm pretty funny.
Well, I've been on your show.
Which is actually no longer Friends to Know. I don't know if you guys knew this. We've moved on to greener pastures. It's now Cat in the Box. Cat in the Box podcast. It's
exactly the same.
Yeah, pretty much. Except it's a little bit more focused around remote viewing.
Yeah. So you guys are a good duo.
Totally that thing you stole from me, but it's okay.
What? Did I?
But Jerry's alright. He's open source. He's good.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Well, okay, that's good. Yeah, I remember it was we had a nap on. It was just
snap on.
Just a whim. I was like, you know what? Let's try an experiment.
It's gonna be one of those shows.
Yeah. I was like, let's just try it. Let's have a little homework assignment, and we had a few hits, and I was actually I think I was more skeptical than any. And Adam, like, he told me later, he's like, well, yeah, when he first said that, like, I didn't think it'd work. Or I thought, I was like, whatever, we'll try it. But he was a little bit more impressed with the hits, and I was more skeptical because I was like, well, it kind of seems like we're reaching here. Mm-hmm. But we've had a few of them that was just like, what the, like, that's crazy. Like, Jerry, you were in on that one. That one blew my mind.
The Black Diamond one?
Oh, yeah, that one. Like, I have it right here. Like, that one still. I was like, wow, that's fucking crazy.
Well, and isn't it...
The last one we were on, too, I had a hit. We all did.
Isn't it like a muscle, you guys, where the more you do it, the better you get, or the more relaxed with the process? That's
what I read. You know, I think I probably change my process every time I do it.
Me too.
And it's just trying to see what works, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was pretty crazy. That one blew my mind. The other one that blew my mind was I was kind of going the same process as the one right after the black triangle one. I was kind of doing the same process, and I wasn't feeling it right. And everything I kept getting kind of seemed like it might have been something that I was thinking of, just something random thought slipping in there. And right toward the end there, right before my kids started, needing parenting, um, like I started to see that like oil slick type, almost like staticky, and you hear in the recording, I was like, and I just see like a huge explosion, like a earth ending explosion, like a meteorite or something. I even said meteorite. Um, and then I opened it up, and it was a bunch of dinosaurs. I was like, that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I was like, and I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, what you guys are doing is really great with that remote viewing exercise. I tried to join in on the Ren one. I really wanted to do it, and I find every time, well, it's only been twice. For whatever reasons, I shelf it. I don't know if it's I've got a fear of failure. I don't know if it's I'm just too busy. But I always want to do it, and then I seem to back out.
I've done the exact same thing twice with him. I want to do it. It's just like, oh, I have 30 days to do it, and it's like.
I think that's the problem, Jerry. Is like he gives us all this time.
Yeah, we need like 3 days. Get it done.
Yeah,
bitch.
get it done,
bitch.
Yep. Snap that whip. All right. So back to your childhood, though. Did you have? So I think I know the area you grew up in, but for the wider audience, what was your relationship like with the natural world?
Well, yeah. So I was born in Lake Chelan, Washington, and grew up in Chelan and Manson. Manson is a town about 7 miles up the lake from Chelan. It's one of those like the closest town type things. So there's a bunch of rivalry, not necessarily like legitimately hate each other. More of Trojan but Manson Trojans versus the Chelan Mountain Goats. Like the high school rivalry. There's always that going on. But I'm on a beautiful lake. I was born and raised on Lake Chelan. It's the third clearest lake in the continental United States, last I checked. The longest lake in Washington State, the deepest, and there's a lot of lore and legend that goes with the lake as well. There's a few tribes that originate the Chelan tribes, and they have a lot of legends about the lake, about monsters in the lake, or specifically one monster in the lake. And growing up, I was able to track those down in certain books as well. So it was cool to not just that's not just something I hear.
Yeah.
Actually, another story that I always assumed was local lore that turned out to be true was of a school bus that crashed into the lake, and it killed like 13 of the 17 people on board, including the kids.
Oh, wow.
And as a kid, you hear this growing up, and you just get terrified of this big black body of water that's, the main center. I mean, like your whole town's around this lake, and it doesn't surround the lake, but it's on the tip, right before the dam. It goes into the Columbia. And you always think like, oh, that's just something the adults say to keep us away from the water. I mean, that's an age-old tactic that many cultures use. Well, I got older, and the internet became a thing. I decided to look it up, and it's fucking real. Like that actually happened. It didn't happen where it happened in my mind. In my mind, it happened like off the bridge, because that's the scariest place. No, it happened. It happened up on over. Well, you guys probably know where it is, but it was like a shitty road, and they're picking up kids, and it like happened in December, and there's snow. It was a snowstorm, and it was pretty bad. And
what year?
I want to say it was like the early 20s.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get a feel for period. Okay,
I could probably find a link for you guys. But yeah, they called in to look for it, and I think the way the legend went was like they never found the bus, and it's still down there today. And now I'm trying to think. I think in the article it says that they were able to pull the bus out.
Interesting.
I can't remember. I have to look it up. It was either they were able to pull it up, or as soon as they saw it, it teetered off the edge, and then just like drop into the abyss because it's a deep lake.
So with the lore around it that you grew up, so are the people who died, are they like haunting the lake or something?
It was never explicitly said, but it doesn't have to be. There was a bus full of kids that died in the lake that
Yeah,
you go swimming at,
yeah.
and it's at night. It gets dark. Your mind wanders, and your mind, it doesn't have to be said. It's just kind of implied that.
Did you have?
When it says they don't have to, or they've never been found?
Did you have a deep imagination at this point in your life?
Oh yeah. At this point, I had already experienced what I thought was paranormal activity. Even though now I'm more skeptical of what I've actually experienced. The only reason why I think I hold on to it is because when it was happening, I remember telling myself, don't forget this, Justin. Like, like you saw what you saw. Like, don't let anyone ever try to convince you. Because up until that point, it was kind of like always up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just trying to mess with you. Ghosts aren't real. And then after that happened, it was like, don't let anyone try to convince you otherwise. You know the truth. No one else might know, but you know. And so maybe it's just part of me trying to be true to the 10-year-old me, I think I was 10, about 10-ish, maybe a little bit younger. But I want to stay true, and I made myself promise never to forget it, or that not anyone convince myself.
That's awesome, though.
Otherwise, yeah.
Did you have a heavy dream life at this point when you were young?
I do have some pretty. I remember a few dreams from that time. One in particular, it's more of a recurring nightmare, and this is going to be a little out there, so just try to stay with me, okay?
We love out there.
This is one of those little dreams that kind of you have to make a lot of connections that only the person who dreams it, makes. So when I was a little bit younger, than right about the time these dreams started occurring, I was living up in Union Valley. Do you know where that is?
Not off the top of my head.
So it's about, I think, like 10 miles outside Chelan. And where we were living, it was, let's see if I can explain this. It was my father's boss's property that was still kind of being constructed. And so like the walls necessarily weren't there. And I remember seeing the framework. I don't remember the place that detailed, but I remember seeing the framework and like, plastic draping over as makeshift walls, because the walls weren't put up yet. And I remember his boss, our landlord, like had a son. I don't remember his son too well, but anyway. So as the dream goes, one night, whatever it was, I had this dream, and I haven't thought about this forever. I had this dream where the son of our landlord took the head of he stole someone else's head to put it on, and like the cops were after him, and I know there's a helicopter involved. I think it's I'm trying to recall how it was, but anyway, so when he put this head on, he became this monster, and it was like a normal body, but like the head was just blown out of proportion, not like a human shaped head, like it was a monster head. I could probably sketch it out, but anyway, this figure would pop up in my dreams all the time for a good 3 to 5 years, I'd say. And I always remember knowing when it was going to be one of those dreams. Like just the sense and the whole mood and the tone of the dream was just, it was like from the get go. And then, so most of the rest of the dream was just waiting for this guy to pop up. And I think I would sometimes hallucinate he was actually there in my waking life. So anytime I hear other stories about people, like, well, I was in bed, and then I said, well, okay, that's a red flag. You were in bed, right? That's always a red flag for me, because were you sleeping? Were you almost asleep? All these different factors that could lead to the explanation of what you think happened. And but I'm pretty sure there's a few times that I hallucinated this thing peeking out at me. When I used to stay the night at my grandmother's house, I was sleeping in the living room, and I'd sleep on the ground if the beds were taken. And where I slept, like if I just like turned my head to the left or the right, depending on how I was oriented, and like down then it'd be the bathroom. And like I swear there was like 2 or 3 times like I saw this like huge monster head just peeking out and just like staring and just this fucking grin. And like again, a huge head. And so this grin was fucking way huge. Really freaky shit. Anyway,
It's creepy. It is creepy. What makes you think that you possibly hallucinated it, though?
Because at the time I swear I could have seen it. Oh, what makes you think that I think I was hallucinating, didn't actually see it?
Yeah, that it was not actually.
Well, trust me, at the time I absolutely thought I saw it.
Yeah.
But now just being older and having the interest in the 14 or the fringe that I do and the research that I've done, and again, red flags when it comes to people just being in bed.
Right. I understand that. You can be in the hypnagogic state right there.
Exactly.
But where do you draw the line? A lot of paranormal experiences and whatnot happen in a different altered state of consciousness.
I absolutely agree with you there.
So, where do you draw the line? Where do you make that distinction that it was not or is?
Well, if you notice what I said was,
I know.
I think I hallucinated.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I hallucinated.
I wasn't trying to pin you down. I just really was.
It's too late. You pinned me.
I was reinforcing your comment.
Classic Jerry.
Totally, Jerry.
Dear diary, you'll never believe what Jerry did again to me.
It's the 80,000 pages. It's like the tax code.
Fuck both of you guys.
We love you, Jerry. You know that.
That's true.
So, but the thing is, a thing that hits me with that story is it's classic in the fact that your younger self had the experience. The experience was valid. Your younger self bought into it and believed it. And your older self, the further away we get from wherever we came from, justifies that it was probably not real, and then moves into that territory somehow to either sound logical, to be logical, to not walk that boundary of it was actually real. And because that's unsettling for people that question sanity a lot in our culture.
Yeah.
So I find that intriguing. And on top of that, what's intriguing is that this was reoccurring.
Yeah.
How often did it reoccur, and over what period of time?
Again, I want to say for the next 3 to 5 years after the initial nightmare, and it would happen less frequently toward the end of that period, but for the first part, it happened. I want to say at least weekly, but I want to even say almost nightly.
Oh wow!
For a long time, and just to go back on that, it was real. So for all intents and purposes, it was real for me.
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
But I mean, and getting older and doing research and looking into it and other types of stories like it. I mean, that's what knowledge is, and knowledge is power, and it's not necessarily denouncing or saying that it didn't happen, because again, in order to be open-minded, you have to accept all possibilities. So there is a small percentage that
I agree.
Not to mention, there's no way you can prove it's real.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. At least not yet. And that's one of the things when not necessarily trying to prove to everyone else that it's real, but it's more of a personal quest to prove to yourself, at least in my case, that I strive to be more skeptical when it comes to especially my own personal experiences, but other things that I hear. Not that I shut people down and say, no, this is probably what happened. This is what happened to you. There's this, and there's this possibility.
Yeah.
It's more of a, well, I believe that you believe what you're saying, but if we think of it as an experiment in logic and logical thinking, then what's the more likely explanation? And I have to do that because I don't want to go all in on something and lead myself down this wrong path.
Well, interesting that you say wrong. But so towards the end of when this reoccurring, rather ominous figure was showing up, was it in its dissipating away from your life and your experience in that period? Were you telling yourself then? Were you questioning whether it was real or not at that point? Or why do you think that it finally faded away?
Well, okay, so toward the end there, when it was finally fading away, I think I had come to, I don't want to say the realization, because again, in order to be truly open-minded, you have to consider all possibilities. But at least at that point in my life, I was convinced that it was nothing more than a nightmare, and I explicitly remember thinking that I hope I don't have that nightmare again. Not that I hope that that entity shows itself again, but that that nightmare doesn't come back, or that I'm not
Okay.
having that nightmare more and more. Not that I'm not having that visitation. I
Yeah.
made a distinction. I remember having that distinction between the two,
Yeah.
because I remember when I first started having it, I didn't want him to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And toward the end, I just didn't want it to happen. So, I mean, there's definitely a distinction there. So, I think that it was just a natural progression from maybe just getting older and
Yeah.
learning about, um, perceived realities, and what, because we perceive, dreams not to be real, and therefore it's just a nightmare. It can't hurt you, so on and so forth. At least at that age.
Yeah.
So now I'm a little bit more open minded. I think
What?
about it every now and then. The details, maybe not so much, but I mean, I can still very clearly remember that son of a bitch's face. Like it was.
And how old were you when you last experienced it, and whereabouts? Ballpark.
Sorry, you're roboted out there.
Oh, dang! How old were you around the last time it showed up?
Well, I think, okay, I'm pretty sure I started having those probably between, I want to say like around 8 years old, and I had them recurring for 3 to 5 years. So between 12 to well 10, 11 to 13, we'll say 11 to 13,
Okay.
roughly, ish.
Did you at that time? So it sounds like when I asked you about early dreams, you immediately, came right up with, I had a lot. So you were a prolific dreamer, it sounds like.
Yeah, I do have that one above all else sticks out to me because of how often it had happened for that period of time, and how
And
much
its strangeness. It's creepy.
yeah, it is weird. And I remember toward the end there, I hadn't had one for a long time, and then I had one of it, and I remember like the creature was like, "You thought it was over, didn't you?" And
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's got jokes.
Kind of. I mean, it was definitely more ominous in the way it said it, but basically, that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
haha, thought it was over.
Oh
Turns out
man.
I'm still here. So,
Oof.
yeah.
That's very interesting, especially considering the hypnagogic aspect that it was in between
Yeah.
so often. So in general, how do you dream? And so I guess you can speak from contemporary, like where you are now with how your dreaming experience is.
So now it's almost hard for me to remember most of my dreams. And I think that's mostly because of my sleep schedule that I have now. I wake up and I get ready to go to work within 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm at work. I usually don't have a lot of time to linger on my dreams. There are occasions where I'll remember something that happened later during the day. Just one of those like triggers where you might see something happening in your dream that involves a red cup, and then at work you see a red cup. You're like, "Oh, wait a minute," and then you get that flashback.
But see,
Adam was actually.
you could get up earlier, though.
Oh yeah, I could. That would involve me going to bed earlier. And as of now,
never mind.
Well, I mean, yeah, I try to get at least 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, so if I got up any earlier, I I wouldn't get that. And most of it's just, I mean, I get about just less than 3 hours to myself, or a day not working, and that's family time. That's making sure homework's done. That's cooking dinner if my wife's not working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or if
You're in
she is
all of
working.
that
But yeah,
phase.
I get about 5 minutes to cry myself to sleep before I go to bed. That's my personal time. So
Do you? So in this era for you,
mhm.
in the dreams that you do recall, does the scale tip in either direction as far as um, hardcore dreams? And what I mean by that is like tension dreams, stress dreams, nightmares, night terrors, as opposed to um, kind of the average dream that could be dealing with your daily life or other stuff that's kind of non.
I would say that it's actually probably equally balanced. I have my fair share of nightmares about various things. I have my fair share of work dreams, which nothing pisses me off more
Yeah.
than when I go to sleep and I work for 6 hours in my sleep, and then I wake up and I go to work.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah.
when I wake up from a work dream, I'm legitimately pissed off for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I just wasted all that, and it's so annoying. Like nothing makes me angrier than going to bed and dreaming about work. And then I have my normal dreams that fade in and out. Family life, things that are coming up. I wouldn't say it leans any particular way right now. Every now and then, I might have a precog dream.
Yeah. I was going
Um,
to get into those with you.
uh, Anytime I've had them, and I got some memorable ones, like especially like when I was younger. Um, they're so minute and make zero difference whether or not I knew that something was going to happen or not. Um, that it's just like it's very like, well, yeah, you knew you were going to see that, but so what? Like, for example, I remember being younger and having a dream of seeing a hydroplane that was like sanded down, like it was going in for repair on the back of a trailer, and it was going in the opposite direction than the vehicle I was traveling in. I was in the back seat, and I just remember like turning around and seeing this hydroplane, and that was the dream. Um, Flash forward to whenever, shortly after, I'd say probably within a week or two, and I was driving in the backseat of the car. It was at night, just like the dream, and I just knew, like I knew to turn around and I would see this hydroplane there. And fuck, sure as shit, I turned around and the exact same hydroplane that I saw in my dream, sanded down, like gray blackish, driving in the opposite direction, on tilted up on its trailer, just like in my dream. And I wanted to be like, you guys, I knew that was going to happen. And it was like, who cares? Like, good job. You knew there was a hydroplane driving by at this time. Like, so nothing like serious, like nothing life shattering or nothing that's going to help me out, like win the lottery or change my
No, they
life.
do. They do seem to be more mundane, but they're
Yeah.
interesting and they bring
Oh,
in a
yeah.
lot of questions.
Oh.
So do they, when you recognize that you're having something going on in front of you, you dreamed, is there ever that phenomena of deja vu around it, or is it more
It
clear?
always includes deja vu.
Okay, good.
That's how I know, because yeah, you get that feeling that, wait a minute, I know this feeling, I know this place, I know this point in time,
And then you
I know what's
pinpoint
gonna
it to
happen.
the dream. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Usually it's sometimes it's like I know that, like, for in that case, I knew if I turned around I would see this hydroplane, and other times you get this feeling of deja vu, and you like a split second before it happens, whatever, like, wait a minute, I do this and this, and then you look over, like, and this is going to fall. As you look over, you see something fall, like as you think it.
Yeah. Yes. Do you, so in the, on the reverse side, so when you're dreaming and a dream seems like it's going to be more significant and kind of stick with you, is there a feeling to that? Is there a feeling to those that where the symbols are really, the dream seems really strong, and even though sometimes you may wake up and it goes away, but that
Mhm.
feeling of being in the dream where it seems really, and I'm not trying to put this into like anywhere in like the lucid awake aspect, just that feeling of, wow, this is an intense dream?
Yes, and unfortunately, the ones that I know, because I know that feeling, and I know I've had those experiences while dreaming, but the dreams don't stick around. Maybe if I thought about it, I could think of some, just not off the top of my head. But I know I've had that feeling before, where while dreaming, and not necessarily lucidity, but being aware that, this is a crazy dream, or this is an important dream, or this is an impactful dream. I know that feeling that you're describing.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't, I can have those and I don't have to at all have any kind of lucidity. It's usually when I'm coming, or like maybe towards the whatever intensity is happening, I'm like, oh, this is intense, might bring me into more awareness, but it doesn't have to be there. When you, so I'm becoming more curious about especially animals and dreams. So have you ever had your pets show up? Have you experienced any significant, or even in the periphery, I guess, where animals are showing up in your dream, just anywhere?
I'm sure I have, but nothing sticks out. Man, I wish I would have done this homework.
No, it's all right. It's good. It might come to you later too. That sometimes
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, no, nothing off the top of my head. But now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like there's something back there, but yeah, no, nothing off the top of my head, unfortunately.
I started, I dream with Mathilde all the time, one of my little dogs I've had forever. And I mean, we're very conscious. I look down and she's always there. And there's and she's not a lucidity um, ping for me. It's just like, oh, you're here. And then so we dream a lot, which is more than I've done with any of my other animals. And it's consistent. It's almost always. And it's got me thinking about that in the world with others. I'm wondering now about how you experience states of consciousness within your dream. So so I'm saying it like that because there's so many different ways of speaking about this. So many people have a different idea of what astral projection is as opposed to lucidity. And for me, I think it's just all levels of lucidity. But tell me about your experiences with being awake within the dreaming experience.
It's been a long time, and listening to the Grimerica show and Graham getting into lucid dreaming, I have wanted to try to do it because when I was younger, I remember quite a few lucid dreams, realizing that I'm in this dream and that it is a dream. I guess a few notable ones would be the first time that I remember lucid dreaming, or at least the first time the dream that I remember being lucid. I knew that. I mean, I've had them before, but I don't remember what they were. But I was a young kid, hormonal, and I remember going, what, next time, telling myself, next time I have this dream where I know it's a dream, because back then I know it was called lucid dreaming. Next time I have this dream that I know I'm dreaming, I'm like, I'm gonna get some action. I'm gonna get a little something. And at this time,
I love the motivation.
Right. I think that's very relatable to most of our listening audience.
Oh yeah, so, to me for sure.
So the thing is, though, is that I didn't know what a little something looked like. And I think that was my issue because I remember being lucid, right? And I remember going, hey, I'm in control of this dream. And I remember kind of saying to the world around me, I'm like, look, I know I'm dreaming and this is what I want. I want to see whoever, like it was some girl from my class, right? That I had a crush on. I was like, I want to see her naked. And she would just appear fully clothed. And I'm like, no, I want to see her naked. And nothing would happen because I think I just didn't know how to manifest what that would look like.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny.
So
How many times have we heard that though? I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it looked like, so I couldn't do it.
You better be glad you didn't meet up with me.
Very frustrating for a young hormonal me.
Yeah.
And the other times, because after that time it was a failed attempt, I never tried again when I became lucid.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not because I gave up or because I just forgot to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All the other times I became lucid, I focused on flying.
Mm-hmm. And when you do fly, how is that experience for you? How do you do it? Like the nuts and bolts of it.
So I remember one time, like I knew I was lucid, I knew I was dreaming, but I was having the hardest time taking flight, like actually flying.
Mm-hmm.
Because previously when I had tried it, it was as simple as running and jumping and floating and gliding and then being airborne. This other time, or the time in question, I remember almost repeating a mantra to myself in the dream, like it's okay, you're dreaming, you're going to take flight, or something like you're going to fly, you're going to fly, you're going to fly, whatever it was. And I just remember running, jumping, and falling to the ground. And I remember getting very aggravated and frustrated because I know I was dreaming, I know I'm in control, but I can't get off the ground. Finally, the flight that I was finally able to float really was like 3 feet off the ground, as high as I could go. Couldn't get any higher up. But besides that really frustrating time, all the other times were very exhilarating and everything you'd think if you had the ability to fly as a little kid.
But how are you doing it? So like for me, when I do it, I actually float around like Galinda in the bubble, but I don't have a bubble, but I'm floating. So I'm not like Superman, like at an angle with my arms in front of me or flapping my wings.
That is how I flew, was like Superman.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone has a little different.
Yeah.
So, and that's consistent with you?
Yeah. Even the time that I was very frustratingly couldn't get off the ground, when I was finally able to, I was just like flying like 2 or 3 feet off the ground like Superman, like it's in a circle around the playground at the school in my dream. So
nice.
Yeah, pretty consistent though.
When you're
and just Superman. That's how I'd fly.
Yeah, a lot of people have that. In my mind, that's always kind of what I think I want to do too. But in reality, or I guess in dream reality, I'm always floating. Like I have an inner tube around my waist. I remember when I first started having these dreams, I did have an inner tube around my waist, like a training wheel. And for some reason, that is how I've always flown. Now I don't have my training inner tube, but to have a pink bubble though, that's my next thing.
That's cool.
So when you're lucid, and so in like the highest state of lucid, where some people would call that just full on astral projection, like when it's like this, right? Do you get that? First of all, do you get that level of lucidity in dreams? Do you get to the point where you actually know you're outside of your body and you're having that experience?
I think the most lucid I had ever been, with the exception of maybe one other time, was the one in question where I was demanding to see a naked girl. and besides that, I think might have been one other time. Every other time that I become lucid in a dream, I get so caught up in my dream that I slip back into dreaming.
Yes.
And the lucidity slips away.
Yeah.
And that's how it is now. Like occasionally, rarely, maybe 2-3 times a year, I remember, it's one of the only things I remember in the dream is becoming lucid and then going, okay, you know what? This is a dream. I'm dreaming right now. But before I get to that, let me see how this goes. And then I never get back to being lucid. And like, I just like, you know what? I know this is a dream, but I was talking to a turtle over here. I'm going to see where that goes. And then I just like slip back into the dream.
Yeah,
So,
it's quite common actually. I don't know why those narratives will pull us out of lucidity
yeah.
sometimes. Very strange. What about encounters with what you would consider other beings that seem like they're not you?
Well, mostly the one in question.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, right, the
yeah,
early one,
yeah,
the monster.
and you know what? I didn't. The what I called him was the landlord's son, because that's kind of how I knew him. He was our landlord's son at the time, and I remember like the reoccurring dream was like the police were after him. They were asking me if I knew where he was, because like he was probably 5 6 years older than me, and we would play when he'd come over. So he was kind of like a friend, but like an older friend, who kind of tolerated my younger self. Um, we weren't like super good buds, but for whatever reason, it decided my consciousness or whatever decided to manifest it as him, and so I just call him the landlord's son whenever I saw this monster. And I remember waking up from the initial dream and just being absolutely convinced that he had done something wrong, and that's why I dreamt it. I remember being worried for many months, if not a year or two afterwards, that he had gotten himself into trouble and that it was something that he was going to go to jail for. Um, as far as I know, that never happened because I remember asking about it at the time, and nothing like that ever happened. But that was the sense I got from this dream, and it was pretty strong. Um, other than that, I would say it would harken back to that paranormal experience I was talking about, and I've talked about this story probably more times than I should on my podcast. But it was essentially a shadow person experience. And there's a documentary on Netflix called The Nightmare, or maybe it's just Nightmare. Um,
I'm not familiar.
oh, if you have Netflix or anyone has Netflix, like it's worth the watch, like for sure.
Oh,
And
okay.
up until I saw that, I was absolutely convinced that whilst what I was seeing was shadow people, what I was experiencing was not sleep paralysis. I had always had the consideration in the back of my mind that it could possibly be night terrors or sleep paralysis, but there was things that didn't add up to me that weren't common, at least to me at that point, that would indicate sleep paralysis. After watching this documentary, I found that it's actually relatively common, exactly what I experienced. But still, I'm true to my 10-year-old self, knowing that ghosts are real. So basically, what it would be, at the time, we all lived in a trailer. My family was my mother, my older sister, and my younger brother, only siblings I had at the time, and myself. And my father was in prison, probably. And my bed was at the end of the hall of this trailer. So if I looked down at the end of my bed, I could see down the hallway. And on most nights, I would wake up, look down the end of this hallway, and I would see the shadow, the silhouette of a little boy walking down the hallway. And there was our bathroom light in the hall was always on. And there was enough light there for me to see for sure, at least in my little mind, that this was a translucent but solid figure when he walked in front of this light. And the little boy freaked me out. I could tell it was a boy just because of its build. And the best way I could describe it, it was like a 3D shadow, like not just like a flat shadow, it was a 3D shadow. And actually, in the documentary, The Nightmare, they nail those 3D shadows, like what I saw. At least if you downsize them from full grown men to this little boy. And while the little boy, like, it freaked me out, but what terrified me was like, so as soon as it got to the room, I'd always watch it come all the way down the hall and into the room. And once it got in the room, I would always cover my head and hide underneath the blankets. And I would just leave just enough, opening so I could breathe fresh air and I could peer onto the wall. And on the wall, I would see the shadows of the shadows, if that makes any sense at all. I would see the shadow of this larger shadow, or this larger shadow just beat the shit out of this little shadow, right? And this, of course, would terrify the fuck out of me every night that it happened, which was, again, most nights. I would eventually pass out from just being tired. And one night, and this is kind of when it all came down to, was one night I told myself I was going to meet the little shadow at the end of the hallway when it came into the room. So I don't remember going to sleep. I'm pretty sure I just stayed awake until I saw the shadow come down. You know, everyone had to be asleep. It's just the way it worked. And again, this whole time, mind you, I'm in bed. So again, my red flags start popping up. You know, oh, he's in bed, in a hypnagogic state. All these red flags. Which is why I'm more skeptical of it now. But so I see this shadow. Like I just look up and I'm waiting. I'm going through my head. You know what I'm going to do. All this stuff. And I see the little shadow start making its way down. I look up and it's just coming down, right? And so I gather all my balls up, and I pick them, and I pick my balls up, and I go muster all my courage, and I go meet this shadow at the door. And I never it occurred to me that I had never seen it get past the threshold of the door into the room. And at this point, it had actually stepped into our room, and again, it's like a 3D shadow, so I can see its silhouette. It wasn't facing me. Like it was just like staring straight, and I'm almost on the side of it at this point. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I don't remember saying anything to it. What I remember is reaching my hand out to touch it. And it was just this slow reach. And like as soon as I should have touched it, like as soon as my skin should have touched whatever this was, it just vanished. It was gone. And I just remember staying there and being like really happy and proud of myself for having the cojones to do this. And you know, young me, I was just like, well, problem solved. I fixed all this mess. You're welcome. Time to go to bed. So I remember going to bed, being really happy. I'm like, well, I'll never have to deal with that again. And then waking up and looking at the wall and seeing this huge shadow just beat the shit out of the little shadow again.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being sad and then, you know, passing back out. And it happened all the way up until we moved out of there. And
so each time when it would happen after that, would you confront it? So was the fear gone thereafter?
No, the fear was not gone after I saw it happen again. I felt that what I did had done nothing, and really, whatever I experienced, it did it. It did nothing for it.
Yeah.
And it was what people would describe as residual haunting. I don't subscribe to the stone tape theory for various reasons, but that's what it was. And so I never heard of a shadow person experience be residual, be like what would be described as a residual haunting, and just on a repetitive loop that happens whether or not anyone's there to witness it. I had never heard that before. After watching that documentary, it turns out it's pretty common. So, you know, I'd asked my family about it years later, probably 10, 15 years ago now. So all grown up. No one else had ever experienced anything else in that trailer. I do remember like driving by the trailer park one day, and they like tore everything up and they were remodeling it. So that made me a little bit happy that place was gone. But I mean, they just rebuilt over it, so who knows?
If it was, yeah,
that house now, wherever that is. So yeah, and that was the experience after that night.
Interesting. I do love that you. Oops, I think we crossed over. I do love that you actually had the cojones, as you said, to confront it. I mean, that's a big psychological jump in your growth as a person. And also, it does slightly change the dreamscape. Have you experienced people you know that have passed within the dream realm?
Yeah, a few times. Actually, still, I had a pretty good friend, um, and he thought it'd be a good idea to end his life. And I still see him even now, and it's probably been 10 years, give or 10 years, and every time I see him in the dream, I get so pissed at him. And like the times that I'm able to go up and actually talk to him, I go, dude, this is a fucked up joke because everyone thinks that you're dead. And that's pretty messed up. It's a good joke, but it's time to stop it. Everyone, you need to tell people that you're really, really alive. And that's all it is. And it's the same thing. I always see, here's how it goes. I either see him and I'm able to talk to him and be like, dude, I thought you were dead. Or I see him and I do a double take and it's someone completely different. So almost a doppelganger in the dream.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I
That's
mistake someone
interesting.
else. I mistake him. I mistake someone else for him. And
Hmm.
when I look back, it's not him. I
I had
have had.
I had a similar thing happen when Dead Tony died, and he showed up in my dreams. He would be like at parties in the background, and I would, hey, that looks like Dead Tony. I'd walk up, and he would never talk back to me.
Yeah.
For years, I had those after he died. It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
and he never talked to you throughout any of those?
Nah, no,
Interesting.
because I wanted to know why the hell he wasn't dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the most recent. I remember when my grandmother died, when she passed, I had a few dreams about her. Kind of the cookie cutter experience with her. You don't get to say goodbye. You dream about her, you get to say goodbye, and that's about that. But the one that I still get is from my friend, yeah, who passed probably a decade ago.
When
Uh,
you ran up to him, were like, everyone thinks you're dead. Does he ever respond? Does he ever talk
yeah,
with you?
he just kind of laughs his signature laugh. If you know him, and who knows, you're from Washington, you might. Um, he has a signature laugh. He'd always just laugh and just go, yeah, I know, and just give his laugh again. And that's about it. Either something else happens in the dream that we no longer communicate, or he disappears and I don't notice, or however that dream works. Um, but here's the other thing. So those times when I mistake him for someone else in my dream, or I see him and I look back and it's someone else, how that always goes is it's always the same thought whether I get to talk to him or not. I'll see him like someone riding a bike. I'm like, hey, that's him. I'm like, man, that's a horrible joke. Like everyone thinks he's dead. He needs to cut that out. Then I'll look back and it's someone else. But when I do get to talk, there's been a few occasions where I do get to be like, dude, I miss you, man. Like everyone thinks you're dead. Where have you been?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know. And then he gives his laugh. So
What do you think about? So it's just a perfect place for me to ask you this. Um, what do you think happens after death? Is there life after death, according to you?
let's not take anything according to me, but
Well,
um,
that's the whole point, though. Nobody knows. So, according to
well,
anyone, is to
yeah,
me is just as valid as the next.
yeah. I guess on nights when I get all existential, I like to believe there is. Um, I'm sure everyone has always had those nights where they just can't go to sleep because they just don't know what the meaning of it all is, what's after this, what's the next step. Um, Honestly, I'd say it probably varies. Um, with just like with most things, when you ask me, it varies.
Yeah,
Depends on the
yeah,
day, depends on the mood.
yeah. I
Um,
like that answer, actually.
I
What
would
this actually? What sign are you? Do you know?
Pisces.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I had to
No,
get
no
at
worries.
that. You were
That's fine.
saying kind of scorpionic stuff to me, so I was trying to figure out where.
Um,
Yeah, yet another Pisces.
Yeah,
yeah,
two
that's
here.
right.
I get all this water from my earth.
What's your birthday?
February 28th.
Year?
Oh, Jerry's
84.
doing a numerology.
What is it?
1984. It was a leap year. I was induced.
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
actually, but those things are interesting to me. He's doing the
He's a 7.
numerology.
He's a 7.
You're a 7.
Just like
I
me.
knew it.
Yep, that's interesting.
Nice.
I'm going
I'm
to
a
double
1.
check it because I'm retarded in math.
Yeah, I watched you and Trisha
God, that was
go around the other
crazy.
night. You guys couldn't get it right. You couldn't.
Yeah, it's a 7.
Trisha. So 7, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you fall on? So all right, with the whole death thing. So what do you think the function of dreams is? What is that whole thing about dreamland and dreaming?
Well, again, that's one of those questions that just varies because the more and more I look at esoteric topics and the fringe, I'd say the more that I look at Fortean literature and the more I read, I almost become more skeptical. Not necessarily in a disbelieving, disproving way, but all these stories they're what feed my curiosity into the topic. But by the same token, I find myself trying to. It's almost like a puzzle. You know, you try to figure out how it all fits together in what you can conceive as reality. So there are certain dreams, like my precog dreams, where I'm convinced there has to be something more to it. And there's other times, I'd say probably the majority of the time, that it's just your brain deconstructing what happened throughout the day and throwing in some little tidbits of craziness. It varies from day to day. I mean, because I had those experiences where, like, well, I dreamt this exact same thing, and I know I dreamt it. It wasn't just a deja vu. Well, I must have dreamt this before. Well, even if that's the case, how did you know it was going to happen? Like, how does your brain know? How do you dream this scenario and then it happened exactly the way you know it's going to happen? So it varies, I guess.
No, it's an
Sorry,
honest
that's a long
answer.
way to-
It all, but everything for me is always fluctuating according to new data.
Yeah.
So what do
exactly.
you
It should
think?
be.
What do you think this experience of waking life is then? So on the opposite side.
I think we've all had that. Well, what if this is really the dream? And the dream is reality. And when we all go to sleep, we're actually awake, and vice versa. I used to dabble with that thought a lot when I was younger, in my teen years. I don't know. I think that's kind of like the question is basically what is life? And no one knows.
Well,
the
it's a little bit different because what is life brings more into what is life is like has more of a destination. The question's got more of a destination. What do you think waking reality is way more open? Like the nature of reality, what's holding it down. And so it doesn't have to have anything to do with predestination or anything more meaningful that would bring in that connotation of what I get from the other perspective.
Are you familiar with the brain in a jar thought experiment? Jerry, I see you shaking your head. No, you're not. Niche, are you?
No, I thought you were going to say something else.
Will you just give us the synopsis?
Not the head in the jars from Futurama, right?
Yeah, no, the brain in a jar.
Or the Lovecraftian
thought experiment.
No.
The Whisperer.
I do, but I can't remember what it was. Go ahead.
Simplified, it's there's no way to know whether or not that you're actually a brain in a jar being kept alive from whatever means, because there's no way for me to know that you're real. There's no way for you to know that I'm real, and there's no way that what we are experiencing right now and what we perceive as reality is actually happening, and not just our brain's way of coping with this.
The real trauma.
Exactly. that we're just a brain in a jar. We have no.
But you could just say the brain in the jar could also. That's the same thing with
the Matrix. Yeah,
right. The virtual reality.
Exactly. It's just another way to say it.
But I mean, science has come close to proving that nothing really does exist.
And I think there's something poetic in that.
Yeah.
And
but then that ties it deeper into dream time.
Yeah.
Which validates the other side of this.
I mean, it does tie it together rather nicely, doesn't it?
So, okay, so with these ideas of, I mean, at least you're open. I do hear a slant in your descriptions, definitely leaning more towards the harder skeptic, though, than you were when you were young.
And I liked it. It's not even so much that I'm trying to entertain it. It's that I feel that I have to state that, to be honest with myself. And answering honestly, I do feel that I'm more skeptical toward many things. I mean, things that I spent hours and way too much fucking time researching for it to be like, well, what do you mean you don't think it's real? I'm like, well, I said I think there's a possibility it isn't real. Not in Sasquatch is the perfect example. Everyone knows me around work, my friends, my family, as the Bigfoot guy. Fascinated with the phenomenon. I am. But just like most of the answers I've been given tonight, 50-50, depends on the day, man. You know, I think it's a romantic thought to think that this, relic hominid or this interdimensional being or whatever, whatever school you land in is out there, and that we have just yet to discover it.
But then in like the quantum idea of observation, so like the Sasquatch is perfect because I actually didn't even pay it any mind my whole entire life. No mind at all. It was way far out, like it just seemed, it wasn't as fancy.
Yeah.
An apparition in a Victorian outfit or some of the other ideas of paranormal that I grew up with. And until I had a for real Sasquatch experience on Mount Hood, which I talked about on your podcast.
Yeah, you did. Really.
They changed my life. It changed my life. And it changed my life in the way that, not that it was an actual Bigfoot encounter and I had a witness and animals with me that responded to it as well. In the idea that, okay, this thing really does exist. But what was so fascinating was my conscious mind, my whatever you want to call it, waking mind, kept trying to place it into known things I know of, like bears. And I really wanted to make it a standing bear. I really, really wanted to do that. And and then the person with me had the telepathic experience with it, who's a very straight-laced person. And, and his response to it all too was, like, okay, this really did happen. And I still see it clearly in my head, and it's not a damn bear, and I've been around bears.
How did you not have a telepathic experience?
I was having a completely visual experience with it. I don't know. I have since then, I hear that there's a whole bunch of different ways Bigfoot stuff plays out. That's like fourth dimensional and all this. I saw it as real as we are, like a bear could be standing there. But I also had the hormonal experience because the smell was so intense, and we were both trying to figure out what the hell is this smell. It was very skunky, but then it was hormonal, making like my jaws kind of feel weird. And then when we got in close enough range, I felt this fear like I've never felt in my entire life. Like, I cannot describe it to the bone. I'm not a fearful person. I'm a cautious person when in nature, because out in the wood, there are stuff that, you're not on the top. And so, but this kind of fear was almost like I wanted to disappear. That's how afraid I was. I wanted to like when I was little and I'd try to be a rock and not breathe. And then when it stood up and I saw the form and I saw that, the steps, the side step, the one main side step I saw, unbelievable. You know, I was. It was completely life-changing, and from someone who didn't really care about Bigfoot at all. Yeah. It always seemed kind of funny to me. So,
but your friend didn't see it.
He saw the movement, but what he saw, we get into the rain. We both smell the whole thing. We both experienced the dogs were crazed. Like the dogs will run at stuff and bark and stuff. They were scared. And it was unusual. That was unusual. And then at the time when I was actually looking where the dogs were, and I don't think he was. We had one on both sides, by the way. The whole story is on Friends to Know. But he heard a growl inside of his head. He said it was like it was inside of his head, a voice in his head. It was a growl. I didn't have that experience at all. So I thought, that's interesting also, because I have experienced that with large and more wild animals in nature where I felt like a telepathic communication. I've experienced that with elephants, by the way, and some other animals where there was something, it was in my head, but they were animals that I know to exist. So anyway, the whole point of this is I had the experience. I didn't actually believe in Bigfoot before. I thought it was kind of funny and all of it until I had the experience. And I'm not obsessed with Bigfoot at all. Now I'm just more like, I don't know if I want to go that remote into the woods, because that's what it was. We went off grid, off road, and then hiked, and then got in, like where there's no trail. We got deep in the wood of Mount Hood. And there's a spit for you right there, deep in the wood of Mount Hood.
Well, why do they stink so bad? That's what I want to know.
It was Jerry, before it got closer and I knew it was hormonal. I thought there was like a pot field around because it was skunky. It was very skunky, like pot can be. And then all of a sudden it wasn't skunky. It was definitely hormonal and nasty. It was definitely like turn the other way nasty. I guess that's skunky too, because you don't want to go towards it.
Right. I'm just trying to wrestle with the fact that there's a olfactory stimulation from an interdimensional being. Or is it here? Or is it something that could just
this thing was physical. Like if it was interdimensional, then that changes my idea of interdimensional too, because it was as solid as I am, and details of it were as crisp and clear as anything, the tree next to it.
Right. I know. I get that. I don't doubt that you saw what you saw. I guess I'm trying to wrestle with, if they live here, where do they hide?
I know.
I know they're always looking for answers
of theories or hypotheses.
I'm sure.
Josh O'Cutchin in his book, The Brimstone Deceit, which deals with paranormal smells and monstrous miasmas, so on and so forth. If you get a chance to read it, I recommend it because it's an awesome book. I'm actually about ready to start his first book,
Trojan Feast.
Yes,
he's going to be on in 4 weeks, I believe.
Well, then you should definitely ask him because he has quite a bit of stories. I'd actually love to pick that guy's brain. I know he's been on Friends to Know, but never when I'm on. But I mean, it stems to, at least in regards to the smell, being a mechanism that they can employ on will. Almost like, and I found it interesting. Niche, you were talking about having the experience with an elephant and other creatures that are real. Elephants are known to produce infrasound, and Sasquatch is notoriously reported to produce infrasound that causes fear. Or I wrote a blog post on this on Primerica. It's I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's probably unlikely. But because the only reason is because, everything that you can speculate about Sasquatch is just that. It's all speculation. All you can
same could be said about aliens.
Exactly. And that's just it. And there is a zoologist or he's not a zoologist. He's a paleontologist named Darren Niche. If you ever picked up a book about dinosaurs recently, in the past few years, he probably has something to do with it. He actually has his own podcast called the Tetrapod Zoology Podcast. It can get kind of dry sometimes because it's really technical, and unless you're a paleontologist and understand all the terms and phrases, it's really good. Anyway, he did write a book or 2 books on cryptozoology, and he refers to cryptozoology as speculative zoology, which is probably a more appropriate term, because most of what cryptozoology about is speculating the habits and behaviors vis-a-vis observed behavior. So it really, most of it is all speculative and it's speculating why these behaviors happen or why they have these behaviors. Infrasound, I saw a video one time that was supposed infrasound caused by a Bigfoot on a deer. And this video was just a deer eating, and all of a sudden it stood up and looked like a deer in the headlights. And that's all it was. And this supposedly was because of a Sasquatch using infrasound to target its prey. There wasn't a hairy hand that came out of nowhere that grabbed it. Otherwise, that would be a little bit more convincing. But I forget where this will go. I think my point is it's all speculative.
Yeah, and I respect that. But the thing is, for me, no matter what it possibly could be, I physically experienced it, and so that in and of itself changed the whole idea. So now anything's possible. You say Sasquatch to me, or Bigfoot, or Hodunk, as they say it up in UP. I'm like, I have, you have my, I mean, you always had my ear with anything weird, especially cryptozoology, I suppose. But now I'm like, yes, I'm interested in hearing these stories. And it's weird because I don't put it into the realm of dreams, like where I think of the dreaming that we have. It's so tight now for me to what I consider waking life, which I still think is a dream, but it's so tied into this now. And the fact that it was so scary, like I felt like it would eat me. That's how scary it was. Like I was not safe. It wasn't like go pushing something at like go away. I felt like I was going to get taken, eaten, like that kind of real reptilian brain fear.
It's very common to hear that type of fear. And I think I told you this the first time you told me the story, that this is the type of story that keeps me interested and keeps me wanting to find out just for myself. Like, I don't care if anyone believes me. I might not even tell anyone except for, people who I know. I just want to know for myself. It's been way too long since I've been hiking, but I was pretty avid hiker. I'd go up frequently, and I never once saw any indication of anything. And here's the thing: you hear a lot of times you can't look for them. You won't find them if you look for them. They'll find you. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried both tactics. I tried actively looking. My eyes are always peeled.
You want the experience. So even if, but if you're out there saying, I'm not looking for one, you still have an expectation unconsciously that you do want the experience.
Well, okay. So what I mean by that is I go out not to look for them. I go out simply for the hike, for the beauty, for the nature. When I go out, when I used to go out, it was with my hiking buddies, and that's why we're going. I just had an interest in it. And
it's like you go out without intention to seek a Bigfoot. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but see, that's still like, it still doesn't matter that your conscious intent is there. Unconsciously, you want to have the experience. So, I mean, because I feel I just have this passion now about it because like I said, I just thought it was bogus. I really, really did. And I never thought, it was just never going to be in the front of ever. I had no attachment, none.
Yeah.
And so my only attachment would be, which is what my mind tried to make it into, was like a bear or a cougar or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was chatting away. I was being kind of bimbo like, just chit chat, and carrying on, not really paying attention. And then, and then the smell, and then drawn into that scenario. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that when you unconsciously want an experience. I think people that want, so I also do think that we can create the experience by unconsciously wanting it bad enough too. I don't know where the line is there.
Didn't you used to do paranormal stuff like ghost hunts and whatnot? Or you have been on them? I thought you showed me Ghost Box recently. No, I was.
Are you talking to me, or are you talking to
you?
I'm sorry, Justin.
Oh no, never.
Who the hell was that?
No, I wouldn't say ghost hunt. I've casually wandered around, reported haunted places that probably wasn't legal to be there. A few times I might have had a recorder, never got anything. I wouldn't say ghost hunting, really. I mean, it was toward my, I want to say my renaissance back into the fringe topic, because throughout my life, I've, when I was younger and I had these experiences, I had an aunt who had a subscription to Fate magazine, and she would always let me read all of her back issues, and that's mostly what I did. And for a while there, it just kind of fell to the wayside with growing up and being a teenager and girls and stuff, and then it reemerged into this interest again, and then it fade away, and then, I mean, probably now for the last 10, 11 years, it's just been pretty full on Fortean fringe funness. But yeah, when I was younger, so you can't prosecute me for that. When I was younger, I might be guilty of breaking into some reportedly haunted places and acting like an investigator.
I don't think the ghosts or apparitions and whatnot are out of the realm of Forteana.
No,
I don't. It's very rare that multiple people see a ghost together. Mm-hmm. It's been put in its own classification, but I don't think it really needs to be. I think it's still part of that whole thing. It's whatever it is.
It's whatever it is. I like that. I feel it's less bogged down when you say it is. Whatever it is what it is.
Right.
Definitely more open to trying to explain it.
Right. And then to go from there, you can go, okay, so is it something? Is it part of us? Is it internal, external? I hear this talked about a lot, specifically with like the anti-ETH people, like Greg Bishop. Who else? I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Soraya talks about it. Like, where does this say it's another consciousness or other consciousnesses? Where do they come from? Are they part of? Are they some archetypes in the wheel with everyone else, or are they external? We can't answer. It's just an interesting question.
Yeah, and maybe that's why everyone likes it. It's a puzzle. I mean, I love puzzles.
Right, and if that's what we got to do, keep us not bored till we die. Hey, it's fun. It's been a good ride, and I'm sure if there's
maybe even after we die,
exactly. If in some way we actually have organized our lives here, as people tend to say, then I'm pretty happy that I'm doing what I enjoy doing, figuring shit out, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I picked the perfect thing for myself. Oh, awesome.
I agree. And basically at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's trying to keep yourself occupied. And I mean, pursuit of knowledge is definitely occupying your boredom.
Yeah, definitely mine. I mean, yeah, I can't sit down and watch TV anymore.
Yeah.
I get anxious, like, oh man, I should be doing something more productive.
I absolutely agree. And I keep buying books in hopes that I'll find time to read them, but my queue of books that I have right now. So
Put them under your bed and go to sleep with the intent to absorb the knowledge.
there's actually I was listening to a Mysterious Universe not long ago, and I talked about this on FTK with Adam about this girl, and because they were talking about athletes who would train while they sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it makes complete sense when you think about it. It's the you're using the same neural pathways
Mm-hmm.
in sleep as you would in real life or in waking time. And there's this girl who said that she would go to this university in her dream, and she would meet other people there, and they would study for, I think it was like for medical, whatever whatever degree or PhD she was trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
And later, I mean, all this extra studying, because you're wasting all this time sleeping if you're not studying. And so, after passing with amazing grades, later in her waking life, she would run into these people that she would meet at this dream
Training thing.
academy. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
Well, I've heard of. So I have this model, if you will, of the astral realm or dream time. I think that's something that we can harness and create in, and it's persistent. It'll stick around, if enough people are putting energy into it. However that works, I don't know how it works, right? But there's been enough talk of people who do shit in astral or whatever that is together, right? In a place where they've set up, or a place where they plan to meet, or yada yada yada. Plus, that's the good side. The dark side is you hear some people talking about how there are these constructs in astral space where shit here is manipulated. From where shit here is manipulated, like the super soldier program, shit like that. They set up shop in astral in some kind of virtual construct into which they pour energy, so it remains persistent, or whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they hang out in there all day, and they could do whatever they want because there's like no law, right?
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
It's interesting to get like both ends of this spectrum. This might be this giant fucking scratch pad for dream space, that we lost contact with or lost the user's guide for. I don't know what, but if it's like that, it'd be pretty awesome. Lost
the user's guide. I like that idea.
Because
sometimes it definitely seems that way.
Definitely, we need the user's guide for our DNA skin suit sometimes. No, the last component of that is, I think that our scratch pad is the plans for the 3D printer that is the physical realm. You plant your seeds in that space, and they manifest here.
So I need to focus more on planting some seeds.
Yeah, in a persistent space.
Yeah.
And how does that translate to the physical realm? I'd say, meditation, focus, and a lot of energy and intention into it.
And that's what people have been saying forever. That's what it takes.
But if you can visualize what you're doing, I think that's where everyone gets this disconnect. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I meditating about? But if you could just draw it, and every day draw a little bit better and better, and you refine it over time, you're actually visualizing it and drawing it, and you can think about the space that exists where it's growing there. That's a big
I agree. Help. I mean, people have been saying that forever. The visualizing is a huge part of a lot of Eastern religion.
It's a big part. It's a big part of magic.
It is. It really is.
Which means it's a big part of art and creativity and right brain shit.
Yeah, it's working on that sympathetic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you I used to be an artist? Well, I guess technically I still am. I just don't draw as often as I used to.
Well, who isn't an artist?
For remote viewing.
Yeah, I mean, really, we all are in some way.
Fine, I guess I was a professional artist. I used to get paid for it.
Oh. Like a graphic artist?
I do. I'm a pro.
Like a tattoo artist.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, yes, you did say that earlier. That is awesome.
So what kind of salary are you pulling down at the tattoo joints?
At the time it was $100 an hour, and nice. I would have to pay, what was it? It depended on the day how much I made it. Like if I didn't make that much, it'd be like however much for my spot, but I think it was like about 15 or 20% I have to pay for my spot, whatever I made that day.
100 an hour. So you've got a spot that's yours, or you just pick it open?
Yeah, well, it was basically that. So the guy who taught me how to tattoo, who I apprenticed under, yeah, he just had a booth set up, and then once I started actually making money, I would just pay a percentage of whatever I made that day toward the shop for whatever my spot is.
I was just wondering. I was curious because I'm thinking I underpaid my tattoo artist. So I've never paid more than $200 for a piece, and they've always taken hours.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing: is that when I say I got paid $100 an hour, that's what we base it off of. So, you know, they come in and say, "Hey, I want this. I want this." You draw it up, you size it up. All that's included in it. You know, I don't charge unless it's a commission piece. If they want me just to draw something for them, then they get charged for whatever. But basically, how it would go is they'd come in, they say, "Hey, I want this this big," and they, you know, I want it right here. After a while, you get pretty good at guessing how long it's going to take you, and you base that price off $100 an hour, or whatever you. And sometimes, honestly, for me, it'd just be whatever I felt it was worth.
Right.
And if it takes you longer, then you pay whatever price I told you. If it takes you less, then I might knock a few bucks off. Generally, when that happens, people are so happy that I knock them off, they give it to me anyway. So
this woman I went to see, she's in Olympia now, actually. Oh, she'd be like, I'm like, how much is it? She'd, whatever. She would just like to tattoo me. Okay.
You know what? I used to do a lot of that. Just come in, pick something off the wall. Like, you sure?
I always let her pick it. I only had one or two things that I wanted, but then I let her do whatever she wanted. This one time at band camp, I wanted to get...
That's bold, Jerry. That's very bold.
That is bold.
You've seen my tattoos.
No, those are my favorite ones.
I have, and I'm just still saying that's bold.
when people just go, you know what do you feel like? Well, you know, I've been drawing this. I've been wanting to do this piece right here. I'll give you a killer deal on it. Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah. This one, there's one tattoo that I've always wanted that I haven't gotten yet, because she would only do it if I let her do my entire back, which I didn't want to do because I'm doing a quarter sleeve on my left side, but whatever. The idea was Mount Rushmore, right? Black and gray. But instead of the presidents, it was the Kellogg cereal monsters. Count Chocula, Frankenberry, Blueberry, and Fruit Brute. And it was going to be Mount Crunchmore was the name of it.
Oh my God, Jerry. It's so Jerry.
Yeah.
But I wanted to put it like on my thigh or on my calf. She's like, there's no way I'm doing it that small.
Can you incorporate it into like a genital tattoo and make one of those?
Ouch. I don't want to go down there.
I'm sure he can.
I'm obsessed with those right now. They're so crazy. So Justin, what got you back into the fringe stuff?
If you come with me and get one too, I'll get one.
I could be talked into that, Jerry. Igor's game.
But I'd rather get pierced, actually.
I'd never tattoo on a penis. I would have never pierced a penis. We used to get calls probably 2-3 times a month asking, hey, you guys pierce dicks down there? And we'd always say, there's a handling fee and you can't afford it. And
did they use that kind of voice for real?
No. I mean, it would always be like, so question for a friend of a friend. Do you guys pierce penises down there? You guys do any Prince Alberts, any Jacob Slatters? And there's a handling fee and you cannot afford it. Thank you. Goodbye.
That's a great comment.
Yeah, and you know what? They just kind of laughing. Okay.
Yeah.
Because although I've never watched or seen a penis be pierced, the guy who taught me, he said, yeah, it has to be erect in order for you to do that. And I'm not, and he wasn't, and his wife definitely wasn't. So
I can't imagine.
You cannot afford this handling fee, sir. Move along. How much is it? More than you got. Well, how much? Name a price. It's rhetorical. There's no price. You're not getting it. It's not getting done. It's not going to happen.
That just means he's not going to do it ever.
Right.
Yeah, basically.
I encountered a Prince Albert in the wilds once, and that thing snagged my labia. It was terrible. I was like, oh my God, this is so not great.
You can get
Yeah,
temporary.
feel sexy now.
You can get like temporary penis, not temporary Prince Albert. In that way, it's not permanent, but it's got the ring and it's got a urethral sleeve, so it feels like you got one.
No, I just think it was like better. Now, if I ever did encounter another one, that'd be a deal breaker. Not having it.
I would just be afraid to pee out of the bottom. You just leak it when you piss.
Oh yeah, right.
It's like
There's so many questions.
It's like the dribble cups. Remember those? No matter how you drink out of it, it dribbles. That's what having a Prince Albert would be like. That would be like, no matter however you're trying to piss, it's going to dribble.
My God,
it's true.
It's true. I know.
Well, I mean, that for the guy's side, sure, that would be a hassle. But just on, Igor was not having that experience. That was terrible. Okay, Nox Mente took a turn.
Igor is a sensitive creature and needs special handling.
That's true. Oh dear.
It's the lopsided nature of it.
Yeah, I know, totally, and that's the side that got caught. Oh, damn, half drape, I'm telling you.
Origin stories here on Nox Mente.
You're right. Okay, I've got nothing there after that.
I mean,
yeah, right. Jesus Christ. All right, where were we?
I think we're done. Questions? Like, how long have we been on there? Hour and a half. That's good. We're right on time. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
So, does anyone have any questions in the audience? If there's anyone actually in the... Oh shit! A bunch of people in here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone that I cannot see.
Kristen said she got a dream tattoo once that she didn't ask for.
Oh, that's interesting. Hi, Kristen. I love Kristen.
Was it from a gray?
Yeah, really. What was the operator?
Did you get that tat on a bender? No, I don't drink, Oswald. And he also asked, Justin, what do the Mormons do on tattoos?
Well, it's been a while since I've been part of the Mormon religion, but most of, like any other religion, they associate with the mark of the beast, and yeah, and especially the Mormon religion. I mean, they don't allow. Well, here's kind of a common misconception is they don't allow caffeine. They don't allow hot drinks with caffeine.
Wait, that's the misconception, or that's true?
Yeah,
you can have caffeine. Like if you drink a soda that has caffeine in it, it'll be okay.
But hot?
But hot Dr. Pepper? Hot Dr. Pepper is not a
no-no. If you heat that bad boy up in the microwave,
that is so bizarre.
Why?
But coffee, big no-no.
Why?
It's I forget who decided that was a good idea. It was one of the leaders of the church at the time. And from my recollection, it was one of the leaders of the church. And yeah, no. And so my brother, in all of his infinite wisdom, decided to get a huge tattoo on his neck, right? And like it's kind of like a tribal design, and the word God is like kind of hidden in there. Like you can clearly see it, but
was it a cover up?
No, not a cover up. Okay. No idea why he did it. My little brother, and he's the baby brother. Kind of your stereotypical millennial in hair bun. Didn't have a job for a long time. Lived with my mom. There's other things that I promised I would never say, so I won't. But let's just say
he's living the dream.
Well, I mean, he's doing a lot better for himself now. He got the job, moved out. He actually just got his first place, so good for you, bud. When he was younger, he was extremely overweight, and he got tired of it and worked his ass off and lost a ton of weight and goes to the gym every day in great shape. I mean, he has the mental fortitude if he chose to use it a little bit more. But like I said, he's doing a lot better. Anyway, he decided to kind of convert to being a Mormon. And when we were Mormons, he wasn't around. He wasn't even a thought in anyone's mind. And but like in the past few years, he decided to start conversing, and I think he actually started to become a member of the church until like a year ago, and then he like decided it wasn't the best idea. But he had this huge neck tattoo, and as far as I know, they didn't say anything about it. Maybe because he wasn't a member of the church at the time, and he wasn't baptized at the time as a Mormon, as I was. But I was baptized as a Christian too. Again, to hook up with a chick, and it worked. And so I guess it just depends. If you're a full-fledged member of the church, then tattoos are a big no-no. But if you have a pre-existing condition and then join the church, it's probably okay.
If you're Orthodox Jew, you can't have, you can have tattoos, but you can't get buried with them. So they cut them out.
No hot dogs either.
I just think that's so gruesome. In a way, it's kind of cool, and yet it's not. The idea of having the skin tat, like if say there's a collector market out there for them.
There actually are tattoo.
There are collectors out there,
and there's tattoo museums, especially in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
The Yakuza museum.
The Yakuza.
I love all that stuff in Japan.
And the triads have their own, and
old sailor tattoos. Prisoners would get their tattoos removed after execution or death and preserved. And there's actually a market out there for actual human tattoos.
That's a for real oddity.
What do you think they taste like if they're deep fried?
Probably like pork rinds.
That's what I would think. That's exactly what I thought.
Makes sense.
We're like 98% the same.
What, like cherry red number 3 coloring?
Well, we're like 98% the same genetic makeup as pigs.
It's a cracklin.
There's a theory that we're actually descended from pigs.
Well,
yes.
It's the
eyes.
Anunnaki took primate DNA and
that's it.
And swine DNA and made us with him. That's how it happened. That's my
Did
story.
we have?
Oh, I forgot. I'm looking for a stupid picture of my tattoo, which I can't find.
Any questions? Any more questions?
No, that was it. Hair
wow.
bun. It says hair bun. That's the extent of our comments tonight. There's been nobody in chat until like 10 minutes ago. Pretty funny.
Actually, I think we had 7 watchers this whole time.
No, we got 12 right now. We've had more.
Hmm.
It's up 1 up to 17. It doesn't matter.
Well, this is the kind of crowd that you should expect anytime you have me on.
No, we're underground. You. We're underground. We always have small crowd, but then our videos get
right. And we're going to be unleashing, I should say, the podcast.
Ooh, that is a great question from Oswald. Ask Jestin if he's ever met another Jestin. The answer is yes, I have. And it's actually kind of an interesting story, so I'm glad you asked. The first time I met Jestin, I never met anyone with the name Jestin before this time. I had a few people, I had one guy email me because it's actually a pretty popular surname in French Canada. And in France, there's like a magazine named Jestin. Anyway, so I was actually tattooing at the time. I wasn't doing a tattoo. I was a tattooist at the time. And me and the guy who taught me how to tattoo, we went to the bar, and I had a few drinks in me. And I see this really big guy come walking through the bar. Never seen him before. And on his shirt is my name. And I'm just drunk enough to say something about it. And I probably wasn't the most composed. But I just like point like right in his shirt. Like, like just like right up in his chest. Like, hey, what's all this about? I'm like, is this guy stealing my fucking laundry? What's going on here?
Damn.
Right? I was just like, hey.
Oh, you're one of those kind of drinkers.
I was like, what's this? And he goes, oh, it's my name. It's how you spell. I go, bullshit. He goes, no, it is. And I just like reached for my wallet, right? And like he just knew. He knew what I was going to say. He goes, no. And I go, uh-huh. And I pull out my license and I show it to him, right? And he just flips the fuck out, and I did too, because I've never met another Jestin, and neither had he. And so he found out I did tattoo, so he kind of just followed me around for the rest of the night. And he was like way bigger than me, even though he's younger than me, and he's kind of like a little security guard. So flash forward a few months, and we end up working at the same place together.
Oh wow, there's some serendipity.
He's the security guard at the bar I work at. So this is after I quit tattooing for like the 4th time or whatever it was. And I went back to cooking, and then I quit this one job and I started working at the bar. And yeah, he was the security guard. And so, I mean, kind of weird. Never met another Jestin, and I ended up working with one. But yeah, he was the younger one. So I always told him I was the original. And yeah, so everyone called him Big Jestin. And I was just Jestin, which I was okay with. I asked him why he was named Jestin, and he said that the nurse misheard Justin and spelled it Jestin. I was like, well, that's kind of a crappy story.
I know.
I was a compromise between Jesus and not Jesus. So my mom, God bless her soul, did not name me after my father. He wanted me to be a junior, little Jesus Junior. And when she brought me home from the hospital, because he wasn't there, obviously, he's a piece of shit. And she brought me home, and he's like, "Oh, let me see Jesus Junior. Let me see Junior." And she's like, "Well, it's not exactly Jesus Junior." He's like, "Oh, or it's not exactly Junior." He's like, "Oh, you just named him just straight Jesus. That's awesome." And she's like, "Well, didn't exactly do that either." And she's like, "It's Jestin, but it's spelled Jestin, like Jesus, Jesus.
That's awesome.
And my father was drunk enough to go, "Okay, that makes sense." And that was the end of that.
That's awesome, Justin.
So God bless my mom for not naming me after him. But yeah.
Yes. I love the name Justin. I had not encountered it myself, so I didn't think it was real.
Yeah, no, it is. And you know what the funny thing is that when I like fill out forms or whatever, people will actually go, "Did you spell that right?" I'm like,
your first typo is your name.
Like, yeah. Like, I know how to spell my name. Like, yeah, of course. Another thing that happens is when they go, "Oh, what's your name?" Like, it's Justin with an E instead of a U, and they'll always spell it J-U-S.
Oh no, T-E-N. Yeah.
It's like,
oh Lord,
that's not what I said.
Yeah. I have this problem. My last name is Ablin, and people always want to put the L before the B all the time.
So my last name, it's up there. Can you guys guess how it's pronounced? Oh, you know what, Jerry? You actually you did a good job pronouncing it.
Sallas.
Correct. Good guess.
No, I know. You told me.
I know. Yeah, it's Sallas. So I've been called Jestin Sallas my whole life. Not a big deal. And I answered it Justin because, you know what? If I'm only going to know you for like 10 minutes, I don't care if you call me Justin, right? So my little brother, the millennial that we were talking about before, right? I got a birthday card. He had to have been like 13 years old at the time. And it said, "Happy birthday to my big brother, Justin." And I was like, hey, bud, what do you think my name is? My name is Justin? He's like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "No, dude. Like, you know what? I don't care when people in passing call me Justin."
Oh my goodness.
You know, like, I don't care. I'm like, "But you're 13 years old. Are you telling me you've never seen my name written down anywhere in mom's house, like, ever? Like, how do you think my name is Justin, dude?"
Oh,
anyway,
man.
I still bring that up from time to time. I'm like, "Dude, you were 13. How did you?" So for 13 years, he thought he had a big brother named Justin. Turns out he didn't. He had this guy, Justin.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know, it speaks to the conversation with the Bigfoot stuff earlier. It's like what your mind just fills it in. It can't be Justin.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, people aren't used to it, so they fill in what they know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude. Oh my God, Justin, you've been fun. This has been another off the wall.
Those are the
Nox
best.
Mente. Yeah, last week was too. We had a good time with Anya.
They can't all be
Nice.
straight-laced and snooty.
Yeah. Oh, we love to laugh.
You knew what this was when you asked me to come on.
Exactly.
I want you to come on every show.
I did say I was hilarious, so boom. Oh, my brother experienced the Mandela effect. Perhaps. I never considered that. Maybe he's from an alternate dimension where he did have a big brother named Justin.
Or he's just a high mind.
Or, he's just retarded. I'm going to go with the latter.
You're his brother. You've got this. You can say that.
Yeah, I can. It's totally cool, you guys. It's totally cool.
Well, I can't find my little Cthulhu servitor that I made. Sorry, Persian scribe. It's funny. He was saying that he expected to see a Lovecraftian themed My Little Pony tattoo, and I actually have a servitor. I created a servitor that's a My Little Cthulhu with the rainbow wings.
It's so great.
You've seen it, right?
I don't think I've seen it, Jerry. No,
I'll find it. I'll put
Maybe I have. There's so much time.
Anya's there. Hi, Anya.
Hi, Anya.
Bye, Anya. We're done.
Yeah. Justin, this was awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I loved coming in laughing and ending laughing. You're as I learned on Friends to Know, and then of course in the Discord chat, you're killing it.
Well, we do what we can, and what we can we do. So thanks for having me on.
There's some wisdom.
I appreciate it. I had fun. So
yeah, we had a blast. Try not. Oh, I do not. All right. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and in the future, for those of you listening, because this is a multi-dimensional podcast. And be sure to tune in next week when we have Randy Moggins from Off Planet Radio. That should be interesting. Expect a 3-hour show then, for sure. So, all right, everyone, you take care. We'll see you next week.